I recall that it was in the afternoon when my PA, Miss Marumo, came into a meeting at our small boardroom in Pretoria to give me a note whilst I was having a meeting with the Director General, Lungisa Fuzile, and other senior managers of the Treasury, where she left me a note which the Director General also had sight of, as he was sitting right next to me, which read, "The President would like to see you." I scribbled a response on the note saying that I would do so as soon as I finished the meeting. My PA returned a few minutes later with another note saying that I needed to go now. I left the meeting immediately, murmuring to the DG that maybe I was going to be fired if you are summoned in such haste. On arrival, I found President Zuma with a senior Malaysian official from Engine or Petronas, the company that owned Engine then, whom I did not know, but was introduced as an official from Petronas. The President explained that South Africa needed to own a refinery and that Petronas was prepared to sell its refinery to Petro SA. Further, and most importantly, he stated that Petro SA would need a guarantee to be able to raise the funds, and as Minister of Finance, I would have to approve the guarantee. I then indicated that I was not aware of the transaction, but if I received the application from the entity via the relevant department, I would consider a guarantee subject to the normal evaluation process. It was at that point that President Zuma, in the presence of the Malaysian official who's connected to Petro SA, raised the issue of spies within the Treasury. This was about a month before the document Spiderweb surfaced. I briefed Mr. Fuzile on President Zuma's request and a possible application that might come to Treasury for him to consider through the normal processes. Now, the Spiderweb document mentioned names of several officials of National Treasury, including Deputy Minister Mr. Mcebisi Jonas. Officials Mr. Lungisa Fuzile, Mr. Kenneth Brown, Mr. Andrew Donaldson, Ms. Avril Halstead, Mr. Anthony Julius, Mr. Ishmael Mamoniat, and employees of state-owned companies, including Mr. Daniel Majila, Chief Executive of the Public Investment Corporation. The key objectives of the project Spiderweb were alleged to be, as you will see on the document, because it's not addressed to anyone, but it is titled National Treasury and the Project Spiderweb. Now, these were the allegations that it was alleged, the objectives were alleged to be to influence the design and implementation of the economic and fiscal policy. It was alleged that it will influence the appointment of key leaders in the Reserve Bank, Treasury, DTI, and SOEs that fall under their ministries, to manage the outcomes of these institutions, defend the position of the Spiderweb through media, and attack and prosecute critics of Spiderweb, Project Spiderweb, through SARS and other means.
Were allegations made in relation to you in Project Spiderweb?
Indeed. The main allegations made in relation to me were that I'm being handled by Ms. Maria Ramos, whom the document code names as the Queen of Leaves. That during the recent World Economic Forum in Cape Town, I had assembled all the DDGs and chief directors from the Treasury at a Cape Town hotel for a brief meeting, and the outcomes of the meeting were that Mr. Lungisa Fuzile, that's the first one.
Before you go on, I'm sorry, Minister Nene, would you just tell the Commission who Ms. Maria Ramos is and what position she occupied at the time the Project Spiderweb document was released? She's Group Chief Executive, I think that's the correct title, at Absa Bank. I think Barclays at that time because of the association, but she worked for the bank. Well, these are now the outcomes of the meeting. The outcomes of the meeting, of the alleged meeting, was that
Mr. Lungisa Fuzile, the then Director General for Treasury, will not be extending his contract at the end of August 2015. That he will be joining the Faculty of Economics at the University of Stellenbosch, and his departure would be a catalyst for some big changes inside Treasury.
Did that occur, in fact, or did it not occur?
It did not. But also that Miss Avril Halstead will be promoted to the position of DG at Treasury, that she will be promoted to position of DDG very soon as a stepping stone for her to become the next DG. That also didn't happen. That Mr. Michael Sachs, the then DDG, will be transferred to one of the SOEs, and that Mr. Tumi Moleke will be transferred to another ministry as a DDG that works with the Treasury.
Did those two events occur?
They also didn't. That I stated that the Treasury must play a key role in the management of state-owned entities and expect my officials to play a firm hand in managing the affairs of the SOEs. A number of changes will be happening at the SOEs. One of the key actions of Treasury is to facilitate the participation of private sector in the SOEs.